Did you know that it's possible to leave your job through blogging? On this week's episode, I'm excited to bring on Chris Myles as a guest. Chris is a host of the Blogger Evolution podcast and has built multiple six-figure businesses through blogging, YouTube, and podcasting. In this episode, Chris talks about how he was able to leave his 9-to-5 job to pursue blogging, YouTubing, and podcasting to generate a full-time income. It's a really cool episode. I learned a lot, and I plan to use some of these tips and tricks in my own businesses. Introducing the host of the Blogger Evolution podcast, Chris Myles. Welcome to the VJ Kyla Show, everyone. On today's episode, I'm excited to have Chris Myles join us. He's the host of the Blogger Evolution podcast. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hi, VJ. Thanks so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it. This is going to be fun.
Hey, I'm really excited for this conversation because we're going to be talking about things that, I personally started. I know you have your own podcast, but with podcasting and just going through your background, looks like you've started multiple six-figure businesses through blogging and podcasting and YouTube videos. And I find that to be fascinating how you're able to replace a median household income or more than that and basically get out of the 9-to-5, enjoy your life, spend time with your wife, your kids. And I find that fascinating. So I'd love for you to walk through your journey, how you got to this point, and just share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, when we first got started, it was really just me and my wife, and we were making ends meet. It wasn't like a terrible existence. We had okay paying jobs, but it was always kind of like right there on the edge. I think there's an old stat out there that say most Americans can't go into $1,000 emergency without going into debt. We were like way past that at the time a few years ago. And it was tough, because one thing breaks here or something breaks there. And all of a sudden, we were kind of being in a world of hurt. But things got even more interesting when we found out that we were going to have our first son. And my wife expressed that she wanted to stay home with him full time. And I remember thinking, yeah, we can't do that. Can't afford it. I remember even telling her, I was like, yeah, you need to at least have a part-time job or something. And but she kind of just sat me down and was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can figure this out. So I did what most people did. I went online and Googled how to make money online. And you can just imagine the cesspool of stuff that comes up with that, right? I tried a lot of things. What I found, a lot of it took a lot of time, but paid very, very little money. But then I eventually stumbled across blogging and affiliate marketing. And, next thing you know, things worked out decently well. It wasn't easy. I had to go through a few roadblocks along the way, but eventually I was able to have her quit her job about a year after my son was born. And, been doing pretty good ever since, trying to stave off employment as much as possible.
Wow. Well, that's exciting. Congratulations on staying unemployed. And I know I know it's not usually what people like to hear, but I mean, once you leave your job, it becomes very difficult to get another job intentionally, right? I mean, you voluntarily left your job so you could do this.
Yeah, that's true. They always say it's easier to get a job when you have a job, but in my situation, circumstances kind of lined up the way that I was looking for them to line up because we were able to like pay off a lot of our debt, and we had a little nest egg. And I was like, you know what, let's just give it a try. Worst case scenario is a year in, I got to go back and get another job, so that was worst case scenario. And thankfully, that's been about 3.5, 4 years now.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about your thought process before you left your job to pursue this full time. What were you doing and how many hours were you working on this on the side? Or was it just, hey, I'm quitting, jumping in full time? Or how did this work?
No, I couldn't do I don't really recommend anyone just quit and just do it. You got to look at your life situation where you are. If I was, this was 20 years ago and I was single and everything, then yeah, maybe you can do that and probably get away with it. But, you got a wife and a family, you can't just drop it all and just say, what, I'm just going to figure it out now. So I had to set things up. And we were in, a considerable amount of debt. And it wasn't good debt either. It was bad debt, bad high interest credit card debt. So all I was doing is just making the monthly payments all the time and just kind of staying on. But once the business started really taking off, you started just paying those things down. I even still have the piece of paper that's right next to my desk. I keep it here to remind myself, where I was. So I got rid of all of that debt. We started building up a little bit of a nest egg to where even if the income in the business stopped completely, we would still be able to survive for 6 months to a year while I tried to figure something out, kind of a thing. And I'm trying to come up with like a little bar in terms of the number that we see in our checking account. And if it ever went too far below that number, yeah, it's time to start putting in some resumes. But so far we got close. We haven't really gotten to that point yet. And just coming up with new ideas, more training, and trying to figure out, how can I create more income with what the traffic I'm already getting from blogs, YouTube channel, podcasts, and things of that nature, and trying my best to monetize those. And by doing so, we've been able to, do what we have been doing. I get to drop my son off to school every day, and just be there on a random Tuesday at 11 o'clock. So it's been fun.
That's incredible. And so when you were leaving your job, how much revenue were you getting from your business? Was it like from a percentage standpoint of your expenses? Were you able to meet all your expenses with your business before you left, or was it just almost good enough?
No, we were doing pretty good. One thing I like to recommend at least is you need to have at least 2.5 to 3 times the amount of money that you were making probably with your former job in revenue for your business. That's pretty consistent. I remember thinking, okay, I had like one revenue stream that was literally churning out between $4,000 and $5,000 a month without much, hand holding. So when that was going on and we had all of the debt taken care of, and I looked at it and said, you know what, I think we might be able to handle it for a while, and I just need to make sure that I just continue to build it up. So at one point, the business was generating a little over 15 to 20,000 a month, and it was pretty consistent, And things have gone down a little bit, but then we've been able to find another revenue source that kind of picks it up, And so it's not like I don't work. I try to tell people that it's not like I'm just sitting drinking Mai Tais on the beach or something like that, but I do get to choose when I work, which makes a big difference, and I enjoy it as well. So it does make a big difference there because some people say when you work or when you start your own business, you trade in a 40-hour-a-week job for an 80-hour-a-week job. But the thing is, you get to choose those 80 hours, right? But you try to be smart with it. And I pay people to do certain things for me, like write articles for my blogs and take care of this, take care of that, which then frees up my time so that I can do other things that I would rather be doing at that time.
Got it. So let's change the subject towards blogging. I mean, it's really interesting for me where you write articles, you write blogs, and you're able to monetize it. Could we talk about the business side of it? How you're able to get traffic, what type of blogs you write, and how you're able to monetize it?
Yeah, VJ, it's an incredible business model that I literally fell in love with when I kind of understood the investment sides of it. So essentially, what I do is I pick a topic that I like, that I enjoy, or that I see is not very competitive online, but has a good upside in terms of being able to make money with it. So the way that we make money with our blogs is usually through two or three ways: either display ads. So display ads are those annoying ads that you see on a website every time you go there, that like it might follow you around and it does all kind of randomness. But the reason you see those all the time is because they pay decently well, especially when you're with what's called a good ad network, right? So that's one way that I monetize. The best way that I monetize is a thing that's called affiliate marketing. So affiliate marketing basically is just partnering up with other brands and promoting their stuff. And when a sale occurs directly because someone clicked on one of my affiliate links on my website, they went through and purchased, I get a commission of that sale. So the best part about that is that I don't have to work for that company per se. They don't have to pay me benefits or anything like that. I'm just kind of a contract employee for them, for lack of a better term, and or salesman, I should say. And then from there, I don't have to create a product. So if the person who buys it has an issue, they just go back to the manufacturer, and I'm just kind of the middleman who is just there and don't have to worry about customer service calls and all that fun stuff, right? So affiliate marketing is a pretty good business model, especially for beginners. And from the investment side of things, I can build a site, I can pay people to write the articles for me, and then I kind of curate it myself when I put everything together on the blog. And then after a while, I can float that money that I spent to have those articles written. And over time, you'll just see the traffic on the site from Google using search engine optimization, or SEO. This continues to go up and up and up. And then as that continues to go up, I'm now making, somewhat passive income from it. On top of it, I can also sell that site if I wanted to, and make a big portion of the money that I spent on it, usually plus a lot more back on it. So they end up becoming these little assets, little businesses that I'm creating, I build up and try to fix up, and then turn around and sell, or keep it if I like the cash flow.
That is just incredible, mind blowing. And I know I've went down the rabbit hole of affiliate marketing and blogging myself years ago, but I never did anything with it. And so it's really cool and refreshing to see someone like you who's successful with it. Could we walk through an example, A to Z kind of? Let's use personal finance as an example. I know you're a big proponent of that. So let's say you were to create a website. How would it work from your business standpoint?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, personal finance is probably going to be one of the hardest
Oh, really?
niches to jump in because, and a big reason for that, VJ, is because it pays so well. Companies pay a lot of money to get in front of those in front of people who are interested in investing or interested in this, that, or the other, and because of that, there's a lot of people, a lot of players, I guess you can say, in that game because they want a little bit of that money too. But there is a way to break into it if you really needed to. And the best way to break into it is doing something that's called niching down or niching down, depending on what part of the world you happen to be in. But what I mean by niching down is instead of trying to talk about all of personal finance, you need to find one smaller aspect of it and then just focus in on that and try to get a foothold on just that particular part of the industry and then start creating content on it. Whether it's blogging, YouTube, this works for podcasting, all of that stuff. But particularly with blogging, then you need to start finding keywords that people will be searching for, usually common questions. You write the content, people find it because they're Googling questions and looking for answers. And then when they land on your website, whatever, let's just say, for example, Roth IRA or something, right? So you're doing a Roth, you start answering specific questions on Roth IRAs. So people are asking questions, they find your website and they go to your website. You give a good list as, top 5 best banks that have Roth IRAs or something like that. And then they're reading your article. Now, because they're on your website, they're interested in investing, they're interested in Roth IRAs, which means you should be able to promote a product to them that they would more likely be interested in than somebody else who could care less about investing, right? I always say you don't want to try to sell a bunch of stethoscopes to lawyers because they don't really care for it, right? You want to make sure that you're promoting into doctors, people who are really interested in what it is that you are trying to promote and make money with affiliate marketing. So if I have a audience of people who's interested in investing, then I can promote, investing apps. I can promote, different banks that they can go to so everybody can start an IRA or any type of investment or retirement accounts. And then by doing that, I get a commission from the sale. And the more that happens, you don't really need a ton of people to make a decent amount of money. I know one particular affiliate program that every time you sign somebody up, they give you like an immediate $100 just for signing up with them. So imagine if you got, maybe a few of your friends to do it, but if you had SEO or Google, and every time you were able to get 1,000 people to that web page, if 1% of those people converted, you're getting a pretty decent amount of people, every month just for that one blog post, and you can do that over and over again with different types of blog posts, with different types of personal finance products. So that's kind of the overview. It's a little more involved than that, but
Yeah.
basically from A to Z, that's essentially what I'm doing. But I do it in a lot of different niches, not just personal finance or, whatever.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for going through that. So let's going deeper into this just to get a more concrete example. Let's say you have a blog talking only about Roth IRAs. Would you write it yourself or would you find experts in the field to write it? And how much do you usually pay them? What's kind of the going rate for writing an article or a blog?
Yeah, so that really depends. So for my sites, typically articles that are more informational based, where you're just someone's probably either Googling a little bit of information and then trying to put together a blog post that answers a specific question. That type of article, I would contract to somebody and I would probably pay them anywhere from between 4 and 7 cents per word. So if I have 1,000 word article, that'll end up being anywhere from 40 to $70 for that article. And I have writers who can, they'll do the research and write it. Now, if I need to do something more specific where it would take a little bit more expertise, I guess you could say, then usually those people are going to charge more money, so they might want anywhere from 6 to 10 cents per word to write an article that is 100% accurate and is going to be, is vetted, or if it is vetted, that it's from actual someone who's in the personal finance space. But one thing that I do in a lot of my blogs is I never position myself as being the expert. I always position myself as the enthusiast who just does a lot of research because I enjoy the subject, I enjoy the products or whatever. So when I am writing the articles, or if I have a writer write the articles, I might come in after they wrote the article and add my own little personal spin to it, saying, this is what I did when I tried to set up my Roth IRA. This is what worked out for me. Those types of words really show that, I'm not an expert, but this is what I did that worked for me. That kind of separates you from everybody else because it's my unique experience, and that my unique experience is different than pretty much everyone else on the planet, right? So when you look at this from like an investment standpoint, if I wanted to completely outsource an entire website, then I would end up spending anywhere from 40 to $100 per article. And I'm probably going to end up writing between 50 to 200 articles, depending on the niche. So that'll end up being a pretty penny. But if I got that article, or sorry, that website up to $1,000 a month consistently, I can sell that article, or I keep saying article, I can sell that website for upwards of $30,000. If it makes $2,000 a month, I can sell it up for 60 to 80,000. If it gets over 2,500, close to $3,000 per month consistently, that's a six-figure blog right there that you can sell. And if it only costs you $20,000 to build the blog itself, that's 80,000 in profit, that you got. And that probably would only take you maybe a year, maybe 2 years at the most to kind of build up a blog to that much, with the right type of monetization. And so that's a pretty good return on your money. And having other people write it for me, that allows me to work on multiple projects at the same time, and keep things rolling, which is really cool.
Wow. I love how you systematized everything. You're not actually writing, you're just putting together the pieces. And because of that, you're able to scale something that you may or may not be passionate about. I mean, so some of these niches that you have websites for, what are some of these niches that have been successful for you?
Yeah, so I like golf, so I have a golf site. I've had an essential oils site. I've had a site on luxury watches, a few others. I'm starting a site right now on musical instruments. I used to play saxophone back in high school and a little bit in college, so I'm gonna start drawing on that inspiration from how am I almost 20 years ago to go over that stuff. And I'm going to be able to infuse my own personal experience in there because I used to play saxophone, so that works. And I found some pretty good affiliate programs that pay decently well, and they're good priced items too. Someone goes out and buys a trumpet, they're probably spending $400 for their kid if they're going to be doing it in school. If I can get a 10% commission on that, that's 40 something dollars every time someone goes through and makes a purchase. So looking forward to that. And then I can expand to other things. I've had a site on guitars. Yeah, there's I have one on alkaline water. That's another interesting one. Just a few, that I've had over the years.
So I used to be a musician in my former life. Haven't really played. Yeah, I played trumpet and then played guitar and drums, but haven't really touched the instrument since college. But I love music. So just for me to make sure I understand this, because I find this super fascinating and I think it's a great business model. You hire people who are enthusiasts or who are experts in saxophones or violins or whichever instruments you're promoting, and they would write 50 to 200 articles related to those instruments. And because of the articles, they are going to rank higher on SEO. So you're able to get traffic. And then each article will have affiliate links to certain instruments or whatever product you're promoting.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. One of the biggest portions of what you just explained is what's called keyword research, where you have to look at Google, see where you have a shot at ranking. There's some keywords out there that there's no point in trying to write the article because it might take you years before you have the opportunity to rank for that particular keyword term. But there's a lot of keywords out there that people don't target at all, and because of that, you can write. When you find something that has not been covered very well on Google, and then you cover it very well in your blog post, you're going to rank for it. And if you can find one that hasn't been covered well, but a lot of people are looking for it, that's a recipe for amazingness right there. So you just got to find low competition is what we call it, low competition stuff that has high search traffic. I'm sure you ever been on Google and you Googled something and you probably found yourself going to page 2 trying to find the answer because the first things weren't the
Yeah.
greatest, that means that's opportunity. I see that as opportunity to create content that will be on the first page. Google does a very good job at having the cream rise to the top. If it's a really good article that covers all of the bases that you might have when you have a particular question, and Google can look at the metrics that how a person behaves when they come to your site. So if someone clicks on your site from Google, they're on there for like 4 seconds and then go back to Google. That's a bad signal to Google. And Google's like, oh, that must not be a good page because we sent them there. They were there for 4 seconds and came back. Now, if they click and they stay on my website for 10 minutes, that's a good, indication to Google. Oh, this must be good content. So if it helped this person, it might help that person, and it might help that person. In which case, the article will slowly make its way up to to number one, hopefully, as being the best result for that particular keyword phrase that you put in. And hopefully I can make some money with that.
So is it a lot of trial and error? You type in a keyword, you see where it ranks, or is there an actual platform or a software that you use to see how certain words rank?
The number one software that I use to see how things are ranking is Google itself. Okay. So
Okay.
Google actually is very good at, if you learn how to read Google, right? Google tells you everything it really needs you to know. So when you Google a phrase, I mentioned the example earlier. You might Google a question like, you said you play trumpet. How, why is my spit valve stuck? Or something like that, right? You can Google that phrase and look at it. If you start seeing a whole bunch of forums, from some trumpet forum or whatever, and you have to see what, Johnny123, this is what happened when mine got stuck. And it's like, and then you got to scroll through the entire page to try to see, okay, he had the problem. Well, how did he fix it? It might take you 5 minutes to try to read the comments back and forth, yada, yada. Or you can find a blog post that says, this is what happened when mine got stuck. This is what I did to fix it. By the way, here's the thing on Amazon that you can go buy to fix it, the same thing that I used. And boom, I'm only going to be on the front page because I had a better user experience. Someone landed on that article. They got the answer to their question really quickly. They fixed their trumpet. And if they went to Amazon and bought the product that I recommended, I got a commission from the sale for that as well. So that's essentially how the process goes.
Thank you so much for going through that. I want to change the conversation a little bit. I mean, again, blogging I think is really cool, but you also are successful with YouTube and podcasting. So I'd love to transition this conversation towards those two aspects as well. How do you use what you're learning, or do the same concepts transfer to YouTube and podcasting, or are they completely different?
The best answer is it depends, which I know is a terrible answer, but it's the same but different. So for example, why does my trumpet spit valve keep sticking, or something like that? That would be a good blog post. You can put that on YouTube, but you're probably not going to get a ton of views on it. But you can say, why does my trumpet sound like I'm gargling water? All of a sudden that's interesting. And you're like, oh wait, that does sound pretty, why is my trumpet gargling? Now you're going to click it because YouTube is all about, oh, getting the click, that's what you really, really want. So that would be a better YouTube title. So you'd have to basically have the same information, the same content that you're creating, but you just have a different way in which you're selling the click of that particular product. So once you learn the differences there, I know a lot of bloggers who become YouTubers and they take a lot of the strict, ABC 1 2 3 SEO and then try to apply it to YouTube. It works, but it doesn't work as well, So you do have to find a bit of a, middle ground of super clickbaity, but you're actually delivering on the promise so that you're not annoying people. And I've noticed that the same difference kind of works for podcasting. There's a lot of podcasts out there. If you can find a way to have your title jump out a little bit more than somebody else's, you're probably going to get the click more often than not, which makes a big difference. So those are going to be kind of the differences. The content's essentially the same. You're just packaging it differently.
So with YouTube, you are do you have different channels for different niches, or is it all kind of one channel?
Yes, that's a great question, by the way, VJ, because that is a big deal, is your niche. You do have to have a topic that you talk about, and you talk about that topic only. I like it to, one of my favorite things to do is watch the Food Network, and I like the show called Chopped, right? Chopped is, I'm sure everyone's probably seen Chopped at some point. But imagine you're watching your favorite show, and in my instance, it would be Chopped, and all of a sudden, a politician pops up and he starts telling me to vote for him. Even if it's a commercial, I'm going to be like, why is this on the Food Network? That's not what I come to the Food Network for. I come to the Food Network to talk about food, right? But what if that politician had a really awesome cookie recipe or something, right? And he told me the cookie recipe, but then after he gave me the cookie recipe and gave me some real value, then he's like, by the way, vote for me. I might be a little bit more apt to that, right? But it wouldn't initially seem out of place because I'm like, why is he here? That's not what I'm here for. So it's the same difference when you're creating content online, especially on YouTube. You want to create content about one particular niche or group of people who you're creating that content for. There's an old marketing phrase that says if you try to talk to everybody, you end up talking to nobody, right? So you need to find one group of people to talk to and talk to them pretty much exclusively. And then as you get bigger and as you get, a little bit bolder, I guess, you can now go after more broader content. And from there, you can now be a little bit more um, interesting in what it is that you're saying, being a little taking chances here, taking chances there, because you have the audience that can support it. I'll give you an example of that. I'm sure, are you familiar with Graham Stephan on
Yeah, of
YouTube?
course. Yeah.
All right. When Graham first started, right, he just talked about real estate content, very, very specific, just real estate stuff. I think I stumbled across him when he only had about 100 or 200,000 subscribers. Now he's got like 4 million. But he was just talking about real estate and nothing else. And then after he kind of covered all of the real estate stuff, he had a subscriber base of people who liked him for him. And then he started doing a little more broader content. Okay, we like real estate stuff. What about investing? What about money? What about Teslas? And he started just talking about all of those more broader things. And even I think one of his most famous videos is about how he bought a Tesla for $20 or something, right? And but he took the content, even though it's just about Teslas, but he put a financial spin on it. And by doing that, it ended up becoming one of his more better successful videos. So he understood the whole process of being niche early on just to get that subscriber base, and now you can start branching off. That's almost a perfect example of how to do it. But you got to stay niche early on and enjoy the small audience that you have early, because it's going to be tough creating content for either nobody or just a handful of people. But as long as you create those connections with people early on, especially on YouTube, and build a real audience, you can have a full-time income with a few hundred people who are following you. You don't need this huge, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. I remember on my channel, I believe I was making a full-time income around the time I had around 5,000 subs, and which isn't terrible, compared to, you might be looking at some of these people who have millions of subs, and because they don't know how to monetize it well, they're barely living paycheck to paycheck themselves.
That's incredible. So with just 5,000 subscribers, you're able to get a full-time income. So what kind of products were you promoting? It's obviously not from ad revenue, right? It's from affiliate marketing.
Yeah, that was well. Some of it was ad revenue. Don't get me wrong. Ads are a great way to monetize, but it's not my primary way to monetize. The amount of money I make from ads is like maybe 15% last time I looked or whatever, compared to what I make with affiliates and now my own products that I have. It pales in comparison. I even tell people, don't go after just ads, because if the traffic doesn't come, or if the traffic takes a really long time to come, you're just wasting time. You're just waiting for the ads to catch on, which means you're going to start chasing views. And by chasing views, you're creating content that you probably don't really like. You just want the views for it, versus actually creating a connection with your audience and the people who are watching you. And by doing that, you start creating real connections, which means if you had your own products, or they're going to trust you for the things that you recommend. You got to be very careful with that as well. A lot of times people will promote stuff just because they're going to get a good kickback from it. It needs to be a good product, because people will start seeing through you pretty quickly as well. So those are kind of the tips that I would use, and you can monetize a small audience and make a decent amount of money.
It's incredible. Do you monetize courses by any chance?
I do. So I have two parts of my business, or two businesses, I guess you could say. One part just focuses on the blogging stuff, the stuff you were talking about earlier. All of the blogs and stuff kind of fall under a single umbrella. But then the second business that I have is actually showing people how to do this kind of thing, and that's where the Blogger Revolution podcast comes from, the bloggerrevolution.com. I have courses that I sell that show people how to do this stuff step by step. I have a community that I just released as well. It's called oneblogaway.co. That's my gratuitous plug right there. But yeah, I have a community too of people who come by, and I'm able to do trainings with them every week and show them this and show them that based on whatever it is they want to learn about that week. And so those are ways that I've monetized the blogger evolution side of things. And that's more courses and community and affiliates than it is ads. Where on the blogging side, ads makes up a bigger portion of it, but it's still pretty heavy with affiliates.
Got it. So going back to YouTube again, I think it's really cool. If you don't want to be on camera, can you still utilize YouTube by hiring people to do it for you? Or kind of like what's a good workaround if you don't necessarily want to be on camera?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. When I first started doing this, I always thought it's better to be on camera. I will say over the years, I've noticed a lot of very successful YouTube channels that don't show their face at all. It's just someone bought a really good mic or something like that. And as long as the audio is good and crisp, and maybe you have, pictures or something that's related to what you're talking about, you can get away with it. And it can be just fine. And then you can build it up. Maybe you've done it for a long time. You've got yourself a decent subscriber base. Now you can have the ultimate face reveal type video, where you actually show your face for maybe one video or something, just so people can see what you look like. I remember growing up, I would have these radio stations. You hear people all the time, and then you see them on TV, and you're just like, that's what you look like? You're a completely different person than I expected to be behind that voice. But that happens a lot. So you don't necessarily have to show your face. I will say, to build trust with people, it's easier if you were to show your face sooner. Because people can look at you in your eyes and say, okay, this is a real person versus someone who's just, behind the camera. So if you're trying to sell your own products, you're trying to sell your own things, it probably would be better if you not promote it, but had your face there. Not saying that you couldn't do it, but I would definitely recommend to do it so that, you can build that trust, that know, like, and trust factor with people faster and be able to promote products with a little bit more of a higher conversion rate.
That's great. Thank you so much. And now I'd love to move on to the podcast side of it because, again, we did blogging, YouTube, now podcasting. We're on a podcast right now. Let's talk about how you're able to monetize your podcast.
Yeah, so the blog and the YouTube, sorry, not the blog, the podcast and the YouTube are kind of together. They kind of do, they promote a lot of the same things. They're just kind of going after two different audiences, right? So one audience, just people who like to listen to podcasts. So I'll create content or come up with a content idea, and from that content idea, I will probably create as the podcast version of it, where it's a little more conversational. I'm just sitting there talking, yada yada. But then I might make the video version of that as well with the YouTube. So I'll try to do all of that in kind of one sitting. I end up doing it twice, but I mean, I'm able. You can put YouTube stuff on podcasting and put podcasting stuff on YouTube, but usually the type of content is different. The more conversational style, you may not be able to get away with that on YouTube as much as you could if it was just a strict podcast. So I present them pretty much completely differently, but I have the same content. So it's not like they're different podcasts and different YouTube channel. They're all pretty much the same content that I'm promoting, which makes a big difference there. So I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. That sounds great. So, Chris, I know before we start talking, you mentioned something about joint ventures. Could you talk a little bit more about that and how you're able to promote using that?
Yeah. So basically with joint ventures, I mean, that's kind of like a long word. People are kind of like, well, what's a joint venture? But essentially, it's you partner with people who already have an audience. They already have a group of people who are interested in a particular thing. I think about maybe Kylie Jenner or something, like the most people that a lot of people would know. What if you had like a new makeup that maybe she hadn't even come up with, and if you could find a way to partner with her and she mentions your makeup because she has a makeup audience, your business would blow up, just because she mentioned it. That's what a joint venture is. So in a situation like this, if your audience is interested in learning how to do blogging, affiliate marketing, passive income blogging, and all that kind of stuff, then, we could work together and I could send them to a page, maybe such as bloggerevolution.com/VJ, or something like that. And by going there, they'll see a picture of you and me. And I'll say, hey, by the way, if you want to, sign up for this or that, then, you can get a free course or something like that, making it up on the fly. But if we wanted to go that direction, we could give people a free course on how they can build up their blogs and make some passive income from it.
Dang, I might need to get in on that free course too. I'll go /VJ as well. Thank you so much. I'll definitely put that in the show notes after this episode.
Yeah, no problem. That sounds fun, and hopefully everyone will take advantage.
I appreciate that. Well, Chris, what is your favorite book that you recommend to the audience related to your background in blogging, podcasting, and YouTubing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because I have noticed that, like, I am a wiser person from reading more books. So I would probably recommend Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. That was a game changing type book for me. It is a big advertisement for ClickFunnels, so don't get me wrong. However, there's a lot of great information in it as well. One thing that we kind of all suffer with is imposter syndrome. And with imposter syndrome, sometimes you don't feel like you're qualified to talk about it, even though I do this full time. I'm still sometimes feeling like, man, am I qualified to talk about this? It's really helpful in Expert Secrets. One thing he mentioned specifically is how you don't have to, on a scale of 1 to 10, where like 10 is Tiger Woods in his prime, or Michael Jordan or something like that. And then 0 is someone who never even thought about golfing or something, right? Where are you? I don't have to be a 10 because how much time is Tiger spending teaching people who barely know how to play golf at all, right? Probably very little. But someone who's like a 5 or a 4 can teach the 1, 2s, and 3s. So because of that, you realize that I don't have to be so far ahead of everybody else. I just have to be further ahead than the people I'm trying to teach. And by doing so, you don't have to feel like you need to be an expert, because the experts usually don't take the time to teach everybody else. They're looking for the people who are the 4s, the 5s, and the 6s who can go back and help those people who are just trying to get started reach whatever goals that they have. And I just learned that whole thing from what Russell had to say in Expert Secrets. So that would be the book that I would recommend.
I'd also mirror that. I've read that book like 3 times now, and each time I get more gold nuggets. And it's really funny you mention that, because I remember one of my first businesses was I taught guitar and drums in high school, but the thing was I never played either of these instruments. So I went on YouTube, learned a few lessons. So I just knew just a little bit more than the student, and I was able to teach it. So exactly what you're saying. I was no means an expert, but I was able to provide enough value to still get compensated for that. So really,
Yeah.
really cool.
Do you remember that
concept.
movie, Catch Me If You Can, with
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio? And the main character was a guy named Frank Abagnale, and that's basically one of the things. When they caught him at the end of it, they asked him, "Look, you masqueraded as a doctor, and you masqueraded as a lawyer, and all of these things for all of these years. You've evaded, the feds. How in the world?" But of all of that stuff, how in the world did you teach a advanced sociology class for an entire year or a semester or something like that? And he just said, well, I just got the book and I just stayed 1 chapter ahead of everybody else. It's like, wow, that's, he had nothing, but he just had the book and he just stayed 1 chapter ahead of everybody else. And by doing that, he taught an advanced sociology course for an entire semester. You can do that too. Anybody can do that, right? Just do a little bit more research, because most people only want surface level stuff. If you go a little bit deeper, then you can be seen as an expert. I wouldn't ever claim to be an expert, because unless you really are. If you are an expert, that's great. You have the credentials to say it, but never, proclaim yourself as being an expert. Just say, hey, I'm an enthusiast who enjoys this stuff, and here's my experience. And usually you can get away with a lot of stuff and help a lot of people.
I find that to be fascinating. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing all that. And Chris, my last question for you is, where can our audience get in touch with you? This has been a great conversation. I learned a lot. I'm really looking forward to signing up for that course and learning how to use blogs to produce passive income.
Yeah, so definitely go check out the Blogger Evolution podcast. That will be the number one place. Because I'm loving that podcast. It's starting to grow a lot faster than it has in the past. I think I'm finally past that early stages of a podcast, but things are growing, people are listening, and we're having a good time over there as well. Amazing interviews also. But also, what we mentioned earlier, go to bloggerevolution.com/VJ, and you have an opportunity to get a free course there. And go ahead and sign up.
Awesome. I'll link all this in the show notes. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much, VJ. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's VJ. If you liked this video, you are going to love this video. Make sure you click it, leave questions in the comments, and I'm here to help however I can. Hope you have a great day.